So good afternoon, my name is Kára McCullough. I am the reigning Miss USA, and I want to welcome you all to the Chelsea Film Festival's first annual Women in Power Benefit event. I feel so empowered to be here representing the Miss Universe organization, not only as Miss USA, but as a woman in science. And all the women in the room that are here to learn about power and how they can render theirs. My mission as Miss USA has been to encourage the next generation of STEM leaders. And as a scientist at the United States Nuclear Regulatory Commission, I have witnessed the efficacy of knowledge transfer in sciences amongst older and younger generations. That is why I created a program that does just that. My nonprofit, Science Exploration for Kids, is currently hosted in New York City and the District of Columbia. So when you get a chance, maybe check out my website at sc4k.org. And as we expand, we are looking for dynamic STEM leaders to be a part of our growing program. So today, we will explore these women, their leadership positions, and how they gained, maintained, and bestowed power amongst themselves and others. Lastly, I recently hosted a luncheon where Senator Kamala Harris said, "You may be the first to do many things in life. Just make sure you are not the last." Women have come a long way in all facets of life, and the best part is we have more to accomplish. I am looking forward to fellowshipping in power with everyone in here today. Thank you.
So, safe to say, it's a great honor to be sitting here with the chance to chat with you ladies. It's amazing to me, that I get to sit here. It's 2017, and I work in media, and never before arguably has media, the conversation of media, been so about, identity and gender and power also, self-power. And I think that's a big theme of this festival and today's panel. And as we heard earlier, these women, are often described as actresses. And I think the idea of what a powerful actress is has shifted over the years, maybe for the best, maybe not always for the best. And clearly the label actress doesn't begin to summarize what these women do with their time. So I think I'd be interested to know what it means for you to be a powerful actress, and why it's important to be powerful, what power means to you, and talk about how your daily lives speak to that.
Power. To be part of this panel, first of all, when I was invited to do so, was humbling but also awakening, because I think we don't realize that when you're in a position of light, where everyone's eyes are on you, you don't realize the effect or the power that you have. As a woman, as a mother, as a daughter, the goal is not to be powerful. I think that's something that subconsciously happens, and you realize when you see the effect that you have onto others. As an actress, I was rendered the opportunity, coming from the health field, having a totally different career, to do something that I love to do. And it was merely that. But after being part of a show where, not only is it women, it's diversity, it's stories, it's relatable, it's been relatable to the world, it arose in my mind that I have a platform, and that my mission here is not just to be an actress, but to voice my experience as a woman, and to speak, to be the forefront of those that don't have the respect or are not heard. So power, something that comes with it, but I don't think you prepare for it.
Beautifully, beautifully said. And I will say, for me, the time that I feel the most powerful is when I am empowering others. Like, that's the irony of it. Is I think, we share a beautiful piece of art that has impacted a lot of people, and for me, then going, okay, how can I use this platform to help others? How can I work with the Women's Prison Association? How can, I want to tell my own stories. how can I make the choice to only hire women? It's just when I'm making the choice, I can make that choice. I'm the producer. And with the movie I just produced, it was, there are so many talented men, and they're awesome, and I love them. But we need to give women more opportunity. And, for example, our DP, director of photography, had never shot a feature because she had never been given the opportunity. But she was just as good as the men who had. And I am so happy that we took the chance on her because she's brilliant. She's brilliant, and she deserved that opportunity. And that doesn't happen unless you set a mandate and say, I am going to empower other women, period. And so for me, that's a thing that both is powerful, I guess, but also feels the most empowering to me and others, and feels quite delightful and exciting.
Power, that it is kind of scary when people say that you are very powerful, but it for me, I learned so much from other women who are in this industry, not in this industry, mothers, daughters. We are all so much more alike than we know, and I think that even just having these conversations openly about the difference between men in the workplace, women in the workplace, there is a difference, and just having these conversations is one step in the right direction, of course. And one of the things I'll say about my career, because I'm not really I'm not an actress, but I'm flattered that everybody thinks that I am. It's awesome. But I'm not like you guys, but it's really awesome to be able to see that the way that women are in the workplace is changing. There's no one note that you have to play. We do so much. We're mothers, you're producing, you're acting, you're designing, I'm designing. We're just doing so many different things, and part of the things that I'm grateful for my career is hopefully letting other girls learn from it. And then also I learned from, I got to where I am right now from learning from other women. So it's just kind of like paying it forward in a lot of ways and just sharing your story.
Right, so yeah, with great power comes great responsibility, I suppose. I'm wondering, when you started out in your respective industries, first and foremost, we've got to look after ourselves, we've got to get the job, we've got to be talented, we've got to look good. At what point for you did you realize that there was a bigger mission at stake? Like, it wasn't just going to be about you, and you were going to become a role model, and you were going to have a responsibility to give back, and suddenly you've got your work cut out and a lot of plates spinning, and you're leading teams of people, and that's a lot of responsibility. At what time did you think, wow, this isn't going to be easy?
It was so directed toward me. Gosh, when did I realize that? Well, first of all, starting as Miss USA, you are surrounded by so many women, and something that really bothers me, but also something that I think you would relate to too, because you're Miss USA as well. A lot of people think, well, what was it like? Were the girls malicious? Blah, blah, blah. And they just have this kind of connotation about the pageant industry in general. Just because. And for me, one of the things that was really important about that experience was learning from the other girls. I had no intention of winning, never mind going on to win Miss Universe. I had no idea that any of those things were going to happen, but I did know that I was surrounded by ambitious women. Whether they were going to be doing what I wanted to do or something else, they were women that got up one day and said, I want to be more than just, I want to try something new, and that's what I wanted to do too. So I just feel like when I was surrounded by those women is when I realized that I have power. If these women are inspiring me so much, then that means that I'm inspiring someone else. And that's kind of when I realized it. Because I was learning from them, I figured they must be learning from me too.
I think that for myself, as a woman, I have not given myself enough credit throughout this whole journey, just being a woman, as far as like loving myself, as far as the decisions that I've made, as far as what I wanted to do, who I wanted to outreach. I have not given myself enough credit because it has never been enough for the external, right? So being a mother, it's negative. Oh my God, I was a teen mom. That's so negative. It's everything you have to be ashamed of. And I think the moment when I was able to connect with other women and hear that I inspire them, made me self-analyze and double check and say, wait a minute, maybe the experiences that I have don't necessarily have to be judged, but more so learned from and spoken about and held highly, because we all have experiences, but they don't take away from us. I think they compose who we are. And that's what builds structure in any foundation, whether it's architecturally or scientifically. You need a base foundation, and I think the experiences that we've had build that structure enough for us to impact others around, and it's a domino effect. By the way, I'm obsessed with playing dominoes, but just that. But it's a domino effect. And even here, even the fact that we're having this conversation, I've met Olivia probably once, by hello, and Alysia and I have a different experience, but to go beyond different genres of work and fields and to be able to have this conversation and to hear each other and say how relatable and how connected we are, if we connect this link, we could be such a strong fence, We could be such a strong foundation to be able to survive, like as women and as a society as a whole.
I love that so much, and that visual, of building something together. Like that's really what it's all about, is how can we build something together? How can we create a new structure and a new foundation for women? And I also love what you said about experiences. And if we can provide women experiences, be it through Julie, who's like very systematically doing that as part of our government, or on a personal level, like can you mentor a woman? On my film this summer, we had a lot of interns, and I just got an email from one of them who said, it was an extraordinary experience, and it was her first time on a film set. And she said, I went to another film set afterwards, and it was such a boys' club, and it was really uncomfortable. And I felt like saying to her, yeah, the day after we wrapped, I went to a film set, and it was like completely different, and I had to be naked. And she wrote to me, and she said, I will hold that, like I will treasure the feeling of your set, and I will stay strong and look for it again, and I will be sure to create that again when I'm a filmmaker. And that, her sharing that with me then leads me to the next great step. And together we create these like sort of bricks of foundation of, okay, we can do this together. That's yours.
So do you think then that, it's hypothetical, but when you started out, do you think your experiences would have been any different had there been a different culture between women in your workplaces? Like if there had been better camaraderie, greater representation, obviously, just more women supporting you, and rather than the division that we've touched on?
Yes, I look for a mentor forever. I still don't have a mentor, and I'm so dedicated to mentoring because, I remember going to New York Women in Film and Television when I was in my 20s, and they were like, oh, sure, send us your resume. And I sent them my resume, and they were like, would you please be a mentor? And I was happy to, but I really wanted a mentor. And that tends to be what I'm like, okay, I'll be one, but can someone please mentor me? So I'm still looking for a mentor, if anyone's available.
I think it's something very important about being inclusive. It's what we don't see a lot. I see a lot of exclusivity when it comes to Hollywood, when it comes to TV and film. It's, and I've been very vocal about this, and, also sometimes suppressed because, you can't be a certain way because then there's a double negative as a woman. You don't get the same opportunities when you voice certain concerns. But exclusivity, not being safe. Look, I'm a Latina. I'm not your size petite. I'm a woman. But in Hollywood, if you're not safe, you're not in. It's either, well, you don't look Spanish enough, but you look black, but you speak Spanish. We don't know where to fit you. It's not about the stories anymore. It's about you have to look the same. If you look like a stereotype Latina that's been in the industry for so long, that's what makes it through. And that's the experience that I've had. Whether it's, oh, your hair is too curly, is there a way that we can make it look, more Caucasian? Because I don't know what else to put it like. And when you see that being told from another woman, a woman of color, when you see your own Latinas being exclusive and not being inclusive, there's not only are you discouraged, but there's disappointment, because in order for us to succeed as women as a whole, there has to be a clear-cut define that everyone's acceptable. Everyone's allowed to tell a story. Everyone can portray roles. Everyone can work, can be in the fashion industry and be expressive and be artists. That's where it comes down to start being inclusive and not to limit anyone because of their physical, racial, culture, whatever too urban means, which are learned. These are learned behaviors. If we don't tolerate this from the very beginning, from a man, from a child, from school, then these don't transcend into the industry. And it has to be spoken about. It can't take a group of women to speak about it 10 years later, about an incident that's been so long going on, right?
I would say that you are your career, your path, having been different in the eyes and not fitting into that perfect mold, is exactly why you're here today, among other reasons. But it's because people can look at you and say, or you can share the story and people can learn that you were different and you made it. And I think that those are the stories that I've always looked up to. Yeah, totally. They're so inspirational to me. And I know that they're so inspirational to everyone. Because it is hard. You're never going to fit into the box. You're never going to tick all of those boxes that you're supposed to be. Especially, in any industry, but our industry, we know in particular, is so cutthroat. There are so many times people have looked at me and they'll say, I'm too short, I'm too, everything. And it's tough, you have to you're rejected way more than you are accepted. We all are. And that's something that I think we should be proud of and we should talk about, because if we pigeonhole ourselves into feeling rejected, then we're just going to be rejects. We're not going to empower ourselves. We're not going to make the right steps forward. So I love hearing about that.
That's how you support one another.
Yeah, I think the fact that I'm sitting here with three beautiful, smart women who have come from diverse backgrounds, who not necessarily would have in the past been easily able to reach the positions you've reached. You're now seen as leading ladies in your fields. In the past, and probably still, there are a lot of barriers to prevent you from getting there. And yet here you are. So I hope that's testament to the fact that culture is shifting in some areas to some extent, but to your minds, how have we've still got a long way to go. How has it changed during your careers? How have you noticed culture shift? And in the way that often it's celebrated, like, oh look, there's so much more diversity on screen. Does that hide the problems that we still have to overcome?
Look, statistically, diversity, we're focused on black and white now, and that's what it is. 3.7% of Latinos in Hollywood, and there's 21% purchasing power, and we make 17% of the population in the United States. Okay, and that's not the ones that are legally here. Okay, because that's the truth. That's my issue. I'm an immigrant. I came to this country with a goal. I was not brought here to be whatever the stereotype is. I have a story to tell. We all have stories to tell. That's my story. And I have to be proud of that. I can't walk around like I've done all my life. Why does my card say alien? I'm not an alien. Why does it say alien, not knowing what that meant? But for the most part, we're having the conversation. And we're having women like Olivia, like Alysia, like myself, have the ability not only to be here present, but to speak about, whether on social media, whether campaigns, to be part of revolutions. I think there's a large turmoil, but there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of calling out that needs to be done. Because right now, if you don't call out on anyone, it's easy to say, yes, there's diversity. But when you pull up the stats are saying otherwise. So we have to do our research, we have to educate. It's my goal here not only to, as an actress, but as a woman, to start this whole idea about nothing new. It's about loving yourself. But let's really speak about loving yourself from male to female to whatever you categorize yourself as. Let's really speak about that, because that's where it starts. Not accepting yourself and feeling that you have to be accepted by others all the time. Right?
I think there's this idea, you're all sitting up here, you look beautiful and glamorous, and we all know you do lots of different things with your careers. I want to talk about this idea of women having it all. Like if we're talking in the context of gender equality, how will we ever achieve that when she's a working mum, what about her kids? How do you feel when people look up to you as having, this glamorous, perfect life?
Nobody has a glamorous, perfect life. Done. Like, it's over. It doesn't happen. It doesn't fucking exist. Sorry, it just doesn't exist. Like, we all are imperfect parents. We all flub lines. We all yell at our beloved sometimes, be it our parents or our, significant other. Nobody's perfect. And as you just said, we just have to love ourselves as we are, because that is how we love each other more, and this is a moment where compassion is so deeply important. I get asked all the time, how do you do it all? You're a mom and you're doing this fashion thing and you're producing and I've come up with this line, which is, I don't sleep, which is actually true, but you just made me realize, I need a better line. I really need a better line to answer that question, because it's true, I don't sleep, but I think it's not, the truth is nobody does it perfectly, and you do the best you can. And for me, I wake up every morning and go, how can I help people? Truly, that's my truth, is I wake up and I'm like, how can I be of love and service today? Done. In this world, how can I help other women? How can I help the environment? How can I, hire women coming out of prison to make a fashion line? Whatever it is, how can I be of love and service? It's really simple. I don't do it perfectly, but that's the bottom line. And then I'm really lucky that I get to make great art doing that, and I get to actually, hopefully, inspire other women.
I don't know how I've been doing it all. I really don't. When I look back, I don't know how I had 2 jobs, I don't know how I did that, but there's only one thing that I could think about, and it's that sense of wanting to exist. Not only exist, but to live, but to have a purpose, but not only to have a purpose, to know that what I'm doing is affecting someone in whichever way it needs to be, that we are a light. I always get told that I'm a light, and I don't understand that. But that's what I want to be, subconsciously. I want to come into a room and be infectious to other people and say, this is who I am, and I am the life of the party, but I want to live because it's so short. We want to feel everything that we believe. There has to be some hope, there has to be some faith, spiritualism, there has to be something that we want to touch. I want to touch, I want to know that everything is sure, but it's not. So you have to put all your risks. It's like, you have to take that chance and say, whatever I'm doing is worth something for myself and for whatever I'm part of this entity, this earth, this planet, right? I'm going too astrological here. Chariot, fire. No, okay. But the point is that, I don't know, because I look for I'm a perfectionist and I look to be perfect. Like I find her so beautiful. I find her so perfect. She's so perfect. She's like gorgeous. And I'm like, oh my God, we look for that perfect in want everything to be such a line. And nature's not that way. And even births are not that way. You know, the power to give birth, right? How do we do it? I don't know, I'm powerful, I gave birth. So I gave Earth another human being. And it wasn't perfect. But it's not A-line, trees are not. So those are the things that cross my mind, and I'm hard on myself, and then I'm like, it's okay that line is crooked, it's okay. We just have to keep on going as humanity because nothing else is guaranteed. And embrace every single difference and every richness that we all have. You know, for those that are into sports, you know, those that are winning, those that are losing. Every aspect is just, nothing is perfect. Right? So.
Totally. I'm totally not perfect. Not perfect. Well, I'll take it. I love it. To me, you're perfect too.
Could have fooled me.
But that is important, and I love what you said, which is, you know, it's just so it is nobody's perfect. That doesn't exist. Everybody's life has ups and downs, and it's awful sometimes, and it's beautiful sometimes, and it's nothing is ever perfect. It just isn't. That wouldn't be fair because perfection is boring. It really wouldn't be fair if everything was perfect all the time. And I think that something that I love so much about what is going on right now in the media and in our societies, people are more comfortable being vulnerable and speaking out. And because of that, we are feeling closer to one another. We are feeling more alike, and we are starting to really believe, okay, maybe actually she's not perfect, she's not perfect, she's not perfect. Because I think that it's us in society for so long trying to feel like we have to keep it together. We have to sit up straight. We have to pretend that we have it all together. And I'm so happy that we're at a time now where we can actually celebrate being normal, being more alike, having these flaws. And we're building each other up by celebrating these flaws, which I love so much. It kind of just makes me want to let my hair down.
I mean, yeah, can you talk a bit more about this idea that, you know, traditionally women in media have, you know, you look the part and you kind of keep quiet to an extent and you say the right thing on cue, and what we're learning now is that what that amounts to is to get to this perceived position of power and success and glamour, women suffer in silence. And I won't talk any specifics, but the things that have been going on in the news this week speak to that in the extreme. Do you feel like the fact that culture's opening up and we're able to talk and let our hair down and be ourselves and talk about sticky issues is gonna fundamentally, potentially change young women's experience coming up through your industries, that they're not gonna have to suffer in silence?
We've been suffering for a long time. I mean, isn't there something called women's suffrage? But we've been suffering for a long time. The thing is that now everything is so overly exposed. It's that double-edged sword where we're like seeing things that we don't want to see, but we need to see. You know, those are things that we have to benefit from. I think, okay, so this is what I believe, right? For my youth, because I have a teenager. And my frustrations with a teenager is that they're not really living, because everything is so validated and everything is there. There's no like emotional like connection with anyone, because everything is through social media. But at the same time, there's so much information and so much access that if we used it in the perfect world, this is not perfect, if we used it productively, we give the freedom and the choice for those that want to follow what and when and how. And that's where I'm heading towards. As women, if we information out there, and we allow those to follow what they want to follow and to be productive that way, I think we'll be way more successful than to like, what do you call it, censor, right?
I think kind of exactly what I feel like a broken record now, because I kind of already said this, but just the more that we talk and the more that we are honest and open, the more we can learn from one another, and the more we can kind of just let it all hang out, I guess, for lack of a better word. I just feel like for me personally, and I don't know, I think a lot of people can relate to this, I used to feel like to be successful, I had to be perfect. Or for this to go well, I had to be perfect. And it took a lot of really patient and loving people in my life, in my career specifically, to look at me and say, Olivia, I know you're trying to be perfect, and you don't have to be. You're fine just the way you are. And like, they would say it once, twice, 10 times. It wasn't until they beat it into me that I actually believed them. Oh, I am okay just the way that I am. Like, I really didn't believe that. And it's a struggle, I think, for a lot of us to really believe that, like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all together to take those steps forward. You just have to be patient and love yourself. And that's why I think that us telling each other, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, I went through this, I went through that, I don't sleep at night, but it's hard. You know, like telling people that it is hard, it's not perfect, it's not rainbows and butterflies, allows people to be more patient with themselves. Except for you.
Sometimes I feel like a caterpillar. I guess the only thing I'll add, because you guys both said it not perfectly, but beautifully. You know, when my daughter was born, my husband got a tattoo on his wrist that said, "There is no perfect," because it was so important. We're both like recovering perfectionists, and we didn't want to teach that to her, and we like very purposefully try and like spill things and not clean them up, because we're like, yeah, we're cool with that, it's fine, it's really okay. Because we can get a little, yeah. But speaking of my kid, the only thing I'll say, just in reference to this moment, because we've all been giving a lot of thought to this moment, right? Oh, and I can get a little emotional about it. For me, there's what we've been talking about helping one another, and there's what we've been talking about building a new foundation for women. There's also a piece of personal responsibility. And for me, you know, my daughter goes to a school here in the city called Bank Street, and one of the things, they teach a class in racial justice and advocacy, and they start it in kindergarten. And in every situation, there are four different categories of people. There's the mistake maker, the ouch taker, the advocate, and the bystander. And they teach that the bystander is pretty much just as bad as the mistake maker. And we are in a moment in society where we all have to take that responsibility. That if you are a bystander, you are just as bad as a mistake maker. So we all have to be advocates, be it about women, be it about diversity, be it about sexual harassment, whatever it is, we have to advocate for each other. We have to listen, we have to have compassion, and we have to be the advocate. We have to say, that's not okay. And I am so glad that my daughter takes that class, because it mirrors what I believe, and it makes me have hope for the future and have hope for our youth and our children, and for what's possible.
That's amazing. Don't you dare make us all cry. Thank you. I think, you know, a lot of women, when they reach great heights. One more question? Okay. Okay. Well, I was just going to say, you know, a lot of women traditionally, since time immemorial, when women or men make it in Hollywood or wherever, you know, they're encouraged to attach themselves to a cause and, you know, think about advocacy or become an ambassador of social issues. But there's no question that when you get women speaking out, it comes from a really authentic place, and your stories are amazing. I mean, Does anyone have any questions? I'm sure you do.
Who do you look up to and who inspire you?
Well, I have to start with Genji Cohen. Like, you know, she decided to make this piece of TV that is about all women and about a very diverse group of women, and that to me was incredibly inspiring to me and gave me outrageous opportunities. So I'm deeply grateful to her. I would say, as you know, when I was a kid, Meryl Streep was like it, and she so inspired me as an environmentalist. Like, I remember when I was a kid and she did this whole thing about apples and pesticides on apples, and I was like, oh, as an actress, you can speak up about like the environment, what? And I'll never forget that, like, and that really deeply inspired me. And then I never would be a producer, I would say, or like think that I could make movies without Jill Soloway and Lena Dunham, who both, like, you know, these incredible creators who told really non-traditional stories and are brilliantly talented in hyphenates and showed me like, oh, that's really possible.
It's hard for me because I'm going to be very honest that I took classes in college in theater, you know, really small, nothing in depth of film. I had no idea that producers existed. Seriously, I had no idea that, you know, shows like Desperate Housewives was by Eva. Like, I had no idea that there was a lack of like behind the scenes. I knew that there was definitely in front, but I had no idea there was behind. So I really didn't look up to people except for male figures. So when people tell me like, oh my God, the directors you want to work with, I'm like, I don't really, you know, I know Angelina started directing. I know that's bad, I should do my homework, but those are just the people that I heard that did. So for me, it was like Scorsese, Spielberg, you know, it was all the big ones, you know, so I really don't have an experience of looking up to people except for, you know, or Selena or 80s Chacon, you know who I'm talking about. And that's about it. That's me growing up.
I think that for me, growing up, I had so many people that I looked up to that kind of got me to where I am, which is something I'm really, really passionate about. Just because that kind of puts weight on how influential we are, and like all of you inspire me, for example, even to be better at what I do. So I think that for you, it's like you can take from so many people in this industry. You kind of just have to find people and study the way that they got from A to B. That's what I did, and that's how I am where I am right now. I looked at what people had done to get to where I wanted to be, and I knew that I wanted to be in entertainment. I knew I wanted to do something. I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to do something in that umbrella. So I looked at a lot of women, and I looked at Michelle Pfeiffer, Halle Berry, Maria Menounos, Juliana Rancic, Demi Lovato, random. You would be so shocked to see how many people started out in pageants. And that's why I did the pageant, because I saw these women who had started in that. And it's a really weird trajectory, but like, believe it or not, that's how they got to where they got to in their career. So I would say anybody that you can learn from, and kind of, if you're looking at somebody's career, like even everybody up here, you're like, I want to be there. You find out where they started and study that, and you'll see there's so many diverse paths and ways to get there. And that if that doesn't inspire you, then at least it will encourage you to try a new idea that maybe you didn't think of before.
I think it's time to say goodbye. So yeah, thanks again to our gorgeous human panelists, and thank you for all the amazing questions.
This is an amazing panel, right? There's a couple of things I think I picked up on. The fact that this was started by so many women. We have this amazing dynamic group of panelists here that offer to share so much of their insight in the industry. Coming from a government background as well, seeing that there aren't many women in leaderships. So this problem actually parallels even into my industry. So it was very empowering to hear you all share that. And I love the fact that we talked about the diverse group of women, the inclusiveness, listening to your gut, going for it, the healthy dialogue, and that the industry is starting when it comes to different diverse points and people being different in a sense in the industry, and just building a foundation in another and across the boards for everyone. So I would like to just say thank you to the panelists one more time. Thank you, Charlotte. It was amazing to hear all these wonderful questions. I would love if you all stayed afterwards for the wonderful reception where we can all mingle and talk. And hey, I think New York is actually the land of free rosé or something like that. So I learned that, right? Okay, but please stay afterwards so we can all have fun together and chat. And it was a pleasure being here listening to you all. And I'm looking forward to meeting some new friends. So thank you so much. And thank you again, Ingrid, Chelsea Film Festival.